Ultimate Collectibles here with another amazing review. Well, the review will probably not be that amazing, but the statue for sure is. As you see, I've changed a few things up, so there may be some different lighting that doesn't look the best, but I'll figure that out as I go along. The poker table is now flipped upside down, and we're actually facing in a different direction. Decided to change it up, so here we go. This is a custom quarter scale Wolverine statue. As you see, it's a diorama of him versus Wendigo. Well, not really verse anymore. He defeated Wendigo. As a reminder, we do not talk about where customs come from on this channel. This piece, the production painted pieces, have not been released yet. They're going to come out in the next month or two. A few kits are out there. This is one of those kits. This was painted by a professional painter. The retail on this, I think, was around 1,200 euros or so about 1,400 US. I'm not quite sure of the price. And it's the ES is usually around 40 to 60 on these. This is actually part of the Wolverine Chronicles. So there's a series of statues coming out. This is phase 2. Phase 1 was Weapon X. Phase 3 is Wolverine versus Sentinel. Phase 4 is Old Man Logan versus Maestro. Maestro, do I say that right? So anywho, I don't know, I just said anywho. I don't know a lot about Wendigo. I had a few comic books that he was in where he was actually fighting Wolverine. He's not a main antagonist in a lot of the comics, but he is a very cool character, and of course Wolverine speaks for himself. So I was able to pick this one up. This is one of the initial kits that came out. I had it painted by a professional painter. It looks great. I've had it for about 6 months, so some of the packing I don't remember. It does come in a detailed art box that says Wolverine Chronicles, and again, this is the second phase. There's a few pieces that do remove, if I recall correctly, or maybe not. Wolverine himself obviously removes. Wendigo is actually in part of the base. There is a couple switch outs. The head is one for sure, so you have this rage battle damaged head that I have displayed here, and then you also have a closed mouth non-damaged head as well, which I actually had to dig out to display because I always display this one. I don't believe there's any switch outs on the hands. If so, I left them in the box. But this is how I've always had it displayed and how I always intend to have it displayed. So it came in black foam, packed very well, no issues, neat art box. And like I said, I think there's about 50 or 60 of these. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but it's a highly sought after piece. Please do not message me asking if you can buy it. I get about 1 or 2 of those a week. Even the production pieces that are not yet released are highly sought after, and I know quite a few people are trying to get that as well. This is why this piece is so sought after, among other reasons, but concept and design. So first of all, you have Wendigo, who is a fierce villain. Like I said, I know him briefly in a few of the comics I owned growing up. He's kind of the abominable snowman comparative, the Bigfoot, the Yeti, and he's just an evil villain that has massive strength and tears things apart, and of course he's going against the ultimate warrior, Wolverine. And in this portrayal, they're fighting somewhere in the woods. As you see on the base, there's moss and rock and logs and trees. So they're fighting out in the woods somewhere, and really the fight is actually over. Wendigo is destroyed. It was a gruesome fight. He has Wolverine's claw slashes all over him. There is blood spattered everywhere. His eyes are glossed over, so it's hard to tell if he's dead or he's dying, but he was defeated by the mighty Wolverine. And then Wolverine, standing victorious, also had many battle damages from the fight, very fresh damages. So this fight just occurred because Wolverine heals usually within a few seconds. So you still see all that battle damage from Wolverine, and he's standing over, very animal-like, very victorious, just probably roaring in victory. So this is why this is so sought after. Phase 1, the Weapon X version of this, is also highly sought after, and I think if you can even manage to snag one up, you're going to pay $2,000 to $3,000 or on up for that. This, my guess is it's going to go even higher on the aftermarket, probably $4,000 plus. And then Phase 3, the same sculptor is doing all of these, I believe. I know he did Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, and I think Phase 4 and Phase 5, which is to be determined, will be by the same sculptor as well. I could be wrong. Someone can correct me if they want. So amazing concept and design. When you talk about a diorama, which a diorama is generally listed as multiple characters in one statue, this is one of the best ones out there. And if you're a fan of Wolverine, it's probably the best Wolverine diorama currently in existence, even though quite a few are being made, but I don't see this one being beat anytime soon. So the second reason that this is so highly sought after, not just because of the design and concept, is the sculpt is amazing. And first, let's start at the base as we always do. It looks like a real tree. It looks like a log. You have the grains that run in it, almost the veination. Veination, is that a word? I don't know. You have the grains. It looks like a real tree. The moss growing on it. The moss actually, I think that's paint. Feels like real moss. If you rub it too much, it'll actually fall off. Did anyone else's mother say that when they were growing up? Anywho. The logs look amazing. The rocks fall right in. There's plenty of texture and divots and bumps on the rocks. Where Wolverine's standing, his shoe right on the rock in the middle of this, and the moss and the design of the rocks just goes entirely around. And there's even a little Easter egg in the back. You actually have a little mushroom growing out of the moss. So very well done on the sculpt of the base. That's not including Wendigo. Technically Wendigo is part of the base, but I'm speaking of the rocks and the logs and the moss. Excellent job. It's very, very solidly done. So let's talk about Wendigo and the sculpt on him. First of all, the power in Wendigo is quite obvious. They did a great job showing his strength, his muscles. You even have some veins running through. And he's a hairy guy, so there's a good mix in this of the hair and the muscles and the veins. And it goes all the way from his torso to his outstretched arms. His hands are giant. I don't know if you can kind of tell, but I have decent sized hands. This is probably bigger than my 7-year-old, wait, he turns 7 tomorrow, 7-year-old's hand, or my 9-year-old daughter's hand. And I also love the damage on Wendigo. The slashes from Wolverine's claws just look like real slashes. I think they're well timed. There's a few areas where it's not just slashes, it's punctures, and I like how they sculpted that into that as well. Then on his face, the portrait is great. So from his eyes to his nose, I really love his teeth. Wolverine though, this is probably arguably one of the best sculpted Wolverines out there. And let's just start at his leg. So his boots have little zippers in the back even, but the texture on them is done perfect. You can tell they're kind of a leather tight-fitting boot. There's a few ripples in there to illustrate this, and that moving all the way up to his outfit, and there's a perfect amount of texture on there. It's not too much, it's not too little. A seam running down the side, and again, just like the boots, you have some ripples to show that this is actually an outfit. It looks like fabric, and yet it is actually sculpt. His leather belt, again, looks like fabric. It looks like mixed media. It is not. It is actually leather with the buckle in the front as well. Also too, I missed on the interior of the thighs, the pattern they did there, giving it the texture, kind of the true Wolverine outfit. And this also matches the pattern on his upper torso as well. And then you have what looks like almost leather strips on top of that. And again, this is all sculpted, so it's very, very impressive. Then to the front of Wolverine, his torso, Wolverine is ripped here. Ripped almost a little bit too much in my opinion. If I had to look for a flaw in this statue, that might be it. But he's kind of hunching over, so maybe I don't have abs. Well, I do, you just can't see them. But so maybe that's what abs look like when you are actually hunched over. And his arms look like a bodybuilder. It really shows Wolverine's strength and power. And I'm not a scientist, and Wolverine's not real. However, if he was, and I was a scientist, I would imagine that he is cut like that. With his ability to heal and live long, you would think that they can eat away fat, and he would just be in great shape all of the time, and he would be that ripped. But his arms, the hair on his arms, the way that's sculpted in, added with the paint, looks like real hair. The veins that are coming up through his skin, again, very, very good. His claws, I love how his gloves, very similar to his boots, and the claws, actually, I believe they might be polystone. Yeah, I think they're polystone, which they're not metal. I could be wrong. It's kind of hard to tell. But his claws look great. And then getting to his portrait. So as I said, he has two portraits. One is the one I love to display, which is this one right here, which we'll talk about first. I love this portrait. So it shows that he was in a fierce battle. I think it matches what it would look like if he was clawed in the face and his arm was ripped off. I love the texture on the top of his head. It matches the middle and the outer thighs of his suit. It's the classic short-eared Wolverine, which I'm not really a huge fan of. Overall, usually if I have a choice between long ears and short ears, I always do short ears. And when I say ears, I mean kind of the fins in the back of the helmet. Obviously, those are not his real ears. But I love how the hair is coming out. Looks like individual strands of hair mixed in very well. And then the tones and musculature in his face as he opens his mouth, and his teeth and tongue are spot on. It's one of the best sculpts of an open mouth I have seen. That's kind of a weird phrase to say. So fantastic sculpt. And another part too I didn't really talk about, the muscles in his back even show through the suit. So paint on this, I'm not going to talk too much about this, even though the paint job on this is absolutely phenomenal. The reason I'm not going to talk a lot about it is because this was a professional painter that did this specific piece, and I believe he's done a few other ones. He's very good with his Wolverine characters. But the production pieces that come out in a few months, their paint may not look like this. They may look similar, but it will not be to this quality. So I just want to point out a few of the awesome parts of the paint. One, I think, is where all the gashes are, the blood gashes. I think that he did a great job really making that look like paint, or I'm sorry, look like blood. I love the job he did on the belt. It looks amazing. It looks like a real leather belt. There's the browns in there, there's some blacks mixed in. It's very well done. And then his arms. I love the pink and flesh tones that he put in there, and some of the black he put around Wolverine's hair, the hair on the arms, while maintaining the pink and red flesh tones. The rivets in his muscles, the veins, there's a tiny amount of blue in there, just showing how much he's flexing his muscles and how much they would show. Again, that doesn't happen on me anymore. It used to when I had time to actually work out. And then the face, amazing paint job. Not only the teeth and mouth, as I talked about earlier with the sculpt, the tones are just perfect on those and the definition of the paint, but even the small amount of stubble on the chin and back towards the mask. Excellent job. And everywhere I look, the paint is great on here. The paint is great on Wendigo. It's great on the logs. The logs, actually really amazing on the logs and the moss. So I could go on and on, but this was one professional painter, so people aren't going to have pieces just like this. So that summarizes my review on Phase 2 of the Wolverine Chronicles, Wolverine vs. Wendigo. I did miss out on Phase 1 which maybe I'll get someday. However, I do have phase 2, this is phase 2. I do have phase 3 and phase 4 coming for sure, and I will definitely grab phase 5 when it's released. But one of the top Wolverine statues ever made, simply put. And I look forward to seeing all the pictures of the production pieces when all of the buyers get those. So congrats to everybody who got it. If you enjoyed this, I have a lot more pieces even similar to this that I will be reviewing. Go ahead and subscribe, go ahead and like, throw me a comment, and I really appreciate you watching. Take care.